Let's move my mic. All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Unheard Outsider, and I am your host, Q, from the DEIC. And this week, I have three amazing friends of mine. Emotional labor put on people of color in higher education. And we're going to first off just go around, get their name and where they work, and just a little bit about themselves. So let's start with my boy Deontay.
Hello. Like you said, my name is Deontay. I work within the financial aid office at SPSCC. I've been working for the college for about 4 years now, and I'm just glad to be here.
Great. Thank you, D. Next up is Lay.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Michelle Lay Earthright, but I just go by Lay, and I am an academic advisor over at the University of Washington, Tacoma, but I used to work at SPSCC with these three awesome individuals.
And my brother from another mother, Joe.
Hello, everyone. It's Joe Aguilar on the mic today. Thanks for listening. I'm an educational career planner at SPSCC. Been in that position for a couple of years now. Have been in higher ed for 7 years total.
Great. One, thank you, three, for being here and having this conversation. And I just want to give a background of the reason why I've kind of picked this topic. I've been at SPSCC around the same time as Deontay. We kind of started around the same time, actually. Pretty much at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
And in my time, not only just at SPSCC, but also other institutions, I have just seen a numerous amount of people of color leave, and just not only leave, but also share their experiences of why they leave. And just also in those conversations that I've heard, either one-on-one or from other people, is just a lot of the emotional labor that goes into being a person of color in higher education. And so I think it's a really important topic to have. And I feel like it's still going on. And so I really want us to jump into this just to see exactly what you all think. So I really want to open up the first question. And the first question is, when was the first time you actually experienced some sort of emotional labor in higher education? Anyone can go.
I guess I'll jump in and go first. When you ask the question, the first thing that popped into mind is with one of my previous supervisors giving me a rundown of how we act at the front desk. And I kept thinking to myself, well, this is going to be interesting because that's not how I am whatsoever. And that was followed up by another coworker with, well, maybe you just need to work on how professional you are. And it was just, it hit me with, well, how come my professionalism does not translate over into this world? I have a different way of going about it. And from the experiences that I've had at working at the desk, a lot of the students, customers, clients, whatever you would like to call them, enjoyed working with me because I was my authentic self. But because it did not fit the mold of what was normal as far as professionalism, I was asked to tone it down. And examples of that were to, give service with a smile. However, if you're dealing with a student, you got to make sure that you just really give in to what they need. Even if they are giving you attitude, they don't like the way that it works, you just got to provide that service with a smile. And that type of emotional labor of not being able to having to suppress my emotions, my feelings of how I felt, it just wasn't allowing me to be my authentic self. And that would cause me stress a lot of the times within the workplace.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, next. You want to, Joe or Lay?
So I know you asked about like one of the first times that we can think about that emotional labor occurring, but honestly, like my mind really goes to just a repeated incident this year. So this was after, everything kind of got locked down and went remote because of COVID-19. And so student appointments were then on Zoom instead of being in person.
Mm-hmm.
And on Zoom, you have that choice to have your video on or have a picture up or just have your name displayed. And, as we were losing a lot of Black lives and protests were heating up, and just a lot of students were getting involved in social justice and activism and just taking on their own emotional labor. Who they shared that with, I saw reflected in my appointments, because when I was meeting with my students, I don't just jump to like, oh, these are the classes you need to take, or like, are you like passing? Are you failing? You open it up with like soft questions like, hey, how's it going? Like, how are you handling this pandemic? How are you doing with classes being online? And I saw how if I didn't have my picture up, didn't have my video on, and just had my name, how when I was meeting with some students of color, at first they would just be like, yeah, I'm fine. And then I would turn my video on, and this happened multiple times. They'd be like, actually, I'm not fine. Like, I've been pepper sprayed. Like, I'm not fine. Like, my community's hurting. And so they were going through this pain and sharing it with me. And I was very cognizant that they weren't sharing that with some of my whiter coworkers.
Yeah. Huh. I definitely want to get back to that, because I want to get back to that. Because there's some points of that in when we transferred over to remote, and how the whole off camera thing. I'm definitely going to come back to that. Thank you for reminding me, honestly, with that experience. Joe, did you want to chime?
And that's, yeah, and that's real in virtual season or not, so I'm glad we're going to dive into that. I'd say, to answer your question on emotional labor, I'd say for me, just like Lay in her practice, I'm also with that holistic approach of meeting the student where they're at, and really talking about more than just classes. Work, life, school, all that plays a part in a student's journey and success. So, our hearts are in it 110%. And that's the reason why I got into higher ed, to give others what I didn't, as a student of color, receive, or did receive as an advisor in the, diversity center helped me out, and I wanted to give that back. And so leading with love and leading with that passion, I guess I feel at times that that's taken advantage of. And everyone's like, oh, it feels like, and it's even said, oh, just give it to Joe, and Joe will take care of it. Joe will do it. Joe will be more than happy to. And whether that may be true, that's definitely stressful at times, and I get overloaded, and there's only a certain amount, I can handle, especially during this COVID time, this virtual season. So yeah, that's the reality of that for me.
I appreciate it. When I think about my first experience dealing with emotional labor, I honestly have to go with, as a working Black professional, definitely comes down to working at SPSCC. And I have had numerous incidents having to hold back my emotions when it comes to expression, how I feel about things, my approach. And from my experience, it had more so to do with when my boss, who is Black, also performs Blackness different and also is kind of like the face, right, of the center of the institution. We're talking about diversity. When a predominantly white institution who looks at my supervisor as the face and how he performs and moves through, there's particularly white folks who think that because he performs his Blackness this way, somehow I'm going to perform my Blackness the same. And that's not the case. So my emotional labor comes with these expectations that just because you see this person do something as far as performing their Blackness means that I'm going to do the same thing. And I felt as though that there's moments where I have to hold back, where it's hard because it's like I want to stay and do what I want, but it's like, we're moving the institution in this direction, but we're moving in this direction and we don't, but it's like, yeah, we're moving in a good direction or we're trying to move in a good direction, but I'm still upset and angry. And I haven't yet moved past that. Like I'm sitting in that so I can heal, and that everyone has to move at the same pace. So for me, it sucks when you almost have to hide the way in which how you perform Blackness. Hopefully that makes sense. And that's a lot of emotional labor for me, when it feels like I can't authentically show up in spaces. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense?
I understood it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thing too is when we think about emotional labor, I really, right now, given everything that we're doing virtually to support our students, but mostly support ourselves, has your institution currently, or supervisors or community, have they really been supportive in you bringing your full authentic self into the room?
That's a good. I'm gonna flip flopping back and forth between my old position and my new position just because it's so new.
Yeah.
Had two different supervisors in my previous position, and one you could tell was a little uncomfortable with how I carried my Blackness. The second one allowed me to do so. However, she did not understand it, but just left it alone. In this new position, there have been conversations of, promoting just be you as long as you get the work done, everything's done correctly, and we have no problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of three different approaches for me on how this topic has been addressed. So really, you've seen three different Deontays because each person could not. I don't want to say handle. Handle is not the right word to use, but each person had a different level of understanding of me, which brought out a different level of me, or made me resist the full authentic self coming out. So it's been a roller coaster ride.
Interesting. Joe or Lay, either one, you can go in.
I guess for me, the environment kind of plays a role in my answer.
Yeah.
Like before SPSCC, I was at Highline College.
Yeah.
And Highline, one of the most diverse colleges in the state, and the nation. And they intentionally reflect their student population with who they hire, faculty and staff, and their just commitment to just you come as you are, and And just from the jump, I felt like I could be my authentic self. And so, and that was the case. And I guess at SPSCC, I don't have that same come as you are type feeling when I walk into those doors.
Yeah.
And just seeing everyone around me and it just doesn't feel like that's welcomed and I guess in my experience. And so it took more for me to just kind of break that internally and just say, you know what, I'm gonna, regardless of this environment, regardless of if it's welcomed or not, I'm still gonna be authentic. I'm still gonna come in as I am. Because that's important, not just for myself, but for those around me and for the students who want and need that from me. So yeah, that's
since majority of us work at SPSCC still. Do you feel that it's being promoted for us to come as we are without actually us being able to do so?
I think there's lip service from above.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm honest.
As far as I mean, like I don't work there anymore, so maybe things have changed. But I think there is a message from above that is not always. How do I phrase this? I think that the message from above can be carried out to different depths depending on the supervisors and how much they agree with that message.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't personally think that. I think SPSCC thinks about the things that are important to do. I just don't think that they follow through. That's based off of my experience. I think that their intentions may be good in certain things, but I just think the outcome and the impact, I don't know if they really pay attention to that. Because if we can show up how we want to and show up the way we need to, we bring our full authentic selves into the room, it should be accepted. It should be okay. And it should be a growth opportunity, right? But I think there's some work to do there. That's just my assessment and my experience.
And to answer your question, Deontay, I don't think it's promoted. I think we have some growth to do there, not just for faculty and staff, but for the students there as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good question, D. Hey, so May, how about you next?
Yeah, I was going to say that a lot of what Joe said resonated with me, like in terms of it does depend on the environment in regards to how much I feel comfortable being my authentic self.
Yeah.
And it's also multi-layered because in my current workplace, I do think that diversity and equity are valued, but I think that in terms of who's comfortable expressing it, it's faculty who are tenured and whose jobs are safe. It's not so much staff because we're at will. So there's that layer to it as well. And so I don't really find myself being like my true authentic self in groups. So I bring it when I'm like in one-on-ones with students, but not really elsewhere.
So can we honestly say that we actually, this is the part. So do we really, as people of color in higher education, do we really bring our authentic selves in to work fully every day?
I chuckle at this.
I'd say more so now that we're working from home.
Yeah, I was gonna say something along the same lines. I was like, I'm gonna chuckle before I say this, but yes,
that is so true.
Now, yes,
like you can't get me. I'm at home, nigga. But
no. Exactly. Say something to me now. What dress code, huh?
Yo, But it makes me think about what Michelle said earlier about the camera thing. And I thought it was very interesting, especially when we think about who defines what professionalism is and what we should do and all of those things. What's very interesting, and I remember this because I had a conversation with my supervisor about it. It was like, Q, are you okay? And I haven't, Q hasn't really said anything, or when his camera is off, I'm fine. I'm absolutely okay. I'm here. You know what I mean? And I just think it's one of those situations where it's just another way to. It's another component of emotional labor, like unnecessary. Especially, I don't know if you've experienced that situation. You turn your camera on, in all of those things, and I personally just couldn't understand it. If I'm here, I'm here, and I don't know how people feel about it, but I personally have felt that it's also a form of some sort of emotional labor from my perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to process everything you said.
Yeah.
Make sure I understand it correctly. So basically, what you were saying is the fact that you were there, like, why do I have to cut the camera on if I'm here? You can hear my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it almost felt like we were still performing.
Yes, and that's what I was going to jump into. I I like to show up to meetings with my camera off. Sometimes I'm not presentable. Sometimes I just really don't want to be on camera. But every time I will get asked, well, how come your camera's not on? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's sometimes you just don't want it on. And the reason being is because I don't feel like performing. I feel like I have to get myself mentally and emotionally ready to talk. And sometimes you just don't want to do that. But the fact that I do feel like I have to prepare myself to be able to interact with my coworkers, there's a problem with that.
I feel like this also comes down to supervisor culture, because I've noticed that, so my department is led by like a secret POC. She can pass as white. And so people will say things around her that they may not say otherwise. And she's fine with our cameras off, because I think she might feel that performance feeling as well. And so we'll all show up to meetings without any of our cameras on. And I think it makes us be our better selves, honestly.
I might be the odd one. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I like showing my camera.
It's so you do great.
I like saying hello, being animated, and having fun with it. That's just me. But no, I definitely feel that at times Zoom fatigue is real, especially now that I'm in grad school and in the virtual season with the rest of you students listening, and it's exhausting, and all day in Zoom, and then I gotta go to a class for 3 more hours in the evening. So student workers, you probably know how this goes, and the first half of that 3-hour class, I'm just video off. It's my time to kind of just recollect and take a break, get some tea to just try to hammer through this second half. And then once I get that second win, I'll show camera halfway through. And you're absolutely right, Lay. It comes down to like who's leading the meetings. I'm grateful that the faculty in those spaces are fine with cameras being off. And if you need moments for yourself, go ahead. And I'm the same way when I'm holding my Black Scholars program meetings. It's not a requirement. If they feel comfortable, please do. But just being in this space is enough. and contributing how you can want to contribute.
Just a side thought about cameras on Zoom. So I've also kind of thought that my coworkers with straight hair, if they can use the Zoom backgrounds and the green screen effect, it will kind of match them perfectly against the background. But I have curly hair, and Zoom backgrounds don't work well with curly hair. So it'll glitch and things like that. So I feel like I either can't use that background, or if I'm going to have my camera on, I have to not I just have to show my house, which brings a level of like, well, do I really want to be showing where I live? Like, this is my home. I want to have that separation between home and work.
Damn.
So.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
That is a good point.
Wow. I'm interested to, do you all feel that that you can, let's just say, do you all feel like you feel supported behind closed doors one-on-one with your current supervisors?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, good.
I do for sure. Yeah.
Good.
I'm a little iffy on that one, because I haven't, like, before she was my boss, I felt like we had a relationship that was like, yeah, she has my back, but now that she's my boss, there's going to be a different dynamic, and I haven't really had the opportunity to really meet with her one-on-one ever since she's become my boss, actually. So it's that one is that's a question left there for me right now. So I'll have to say no.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Listen, we speak the truth up in here. I also am very interested to see, do you all, thinking about emotional labor, what are some things that, is it something that the institution needs to have a collective conversation, or do you feel as though it depends on departments, and those departments, or the person leading those departments, needs to really foster a better environment that's comfortable for people to be expressive in the way that they need to?
To be honest, I think this is something that extends beyond higher education. I think the whole philosophy of the customer is right, is always right, needs to be talked about. And that's because a lot of the reasons why we were told to act certain ways is because we have that motto of the customer is always right. I think if we were to change that to the worker knows what they're doing and allow us to, be our authentic selves and have our back, then I think that's when we'd be able to see a change.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can you
Nobody got nothing to say?
What happened?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yeah, I said, is it something that the institution as a whole needs to really have a conversation about when we're talking about the emotional labor component, when we're thinking about it? Or do you think that it's something that needs to be departmental supervisor focused for the department and staff as a whole? You know what I mean? So is it an institutional thing we need to have a conversation about? Or do you think it's better, so to speak, to really talk about it based off of departments?
I think it's a both and.
Both and?
Yeah, so if it's coming down from like the college as an institution as a whole, that's good, but then individual supervisors can stop that, can actually kind of block it from their department. But the same way, if a supervisor is creating like a really healthy environment, but the institution as a whole is not healthy for their employees, then they're still gonna butt heads. So I think it's necessary on
Absolutely.
both ends.
And I agree 100% with that. Yeah, because I've experienced both. Yeah, and currently it's the latter. So it's, I have our department's doing a lot of great work, and we're pushing for some things. But because the institution, a lot of the power is held above, you're having this kind of middle person, our supervisor, kind of stuck in the middle of trying to, support the team, and we're all trying to come with a collective voice, and it's just back and forth and button heads, I guess, so to speak. So, yeah.
So my next, go ahead, friend.
I was just going to say, yeah, we need a commitment from the institution as a whole.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because, which we all have either experienced or seen, is people who go against what the top says because they think that they're idiots. And they, and they do their own thing, right? Because they feel like they need to create a different kind of culture and what the top is not really wanting to do. And that's in any place you work. But what's I really want to delve into in the next conversation, we're going to get really real here. And feel free to gauge how you want to respond. But how did you feel, or how did you feel when you've seen friends of yours that are people of color leave because of the overload of emotional labor? How did you feel when you had to see friends or people you've worked with leave because of the emotional labor put onto them in the workplace?
I felt guilt. Just guilt of different varieties. Like, did I support them enough? Did I step up enough to try and stop it? I felt like, am I being an Uncle Tom by staying? Am I just helping the system exist? So just guilt of all sorts.
Yeah.
It's a sad reality, and it breaks my heart to see so many people who are about the work, who are passionate individuals who come into higher ed with so much to do for their communities. And because of this just pattern of institutional leadership, not growing their employees, not training them properly, getting them connected to larger networks. Here in the state, we have the Faculty and Staff of Color Conference. And there's a lot of great networks to be a part of as a professional of color, a faculty and staff of color. And I've been pushing this last couple of years to get memberships in those. Highline, as I mentioned before, when I worked there, right away they're just like, yes, we got your membership for NASPA. We got your membership from NACADA. Faculty and Staff of Color Conference, you're going. Amazing. And you get so much out of these things, connecting with your peers of color, connecting with people in different levels of their journey in higher ed, and the best practices that are happening, and just being with your people and healing and just the times. I mean, you all know you've been in these spaces too. And it's amazing, and it feels like pulling teeth trying to get these memberships at SPS, and it just blows my mind, and it says a lot, So, all that being said, and this is not just SPS, this is statewide. I've had many friends go to a different career who were just wonderful higher ed people because of these things and the politics within higher ed. And it's unfortunate. Yeah, it breaks my heart.
Yeah. D, what about you? You know, we've seen a lot of people. I'm just gonna put it out there. We've seen a lot of people.
I felt a little combination of both of what they're saying. I think initially for me it was more like, man, another one. Like what is going on? Why are the higher ups not seeing what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well, I
yet
think that
another.
touches on the system of martyrdom, or like a
Yeah.
culture of martyrdom in education. There will always be more of us who care about helping students. So we are technically replaceable.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very true. I have to say it was traumatic for me. It was probably one of the most, now given people leave for their own reasons, yes. But when you are a person of color, and you see multiple people of color leave, and we know why most of them left. um, you know, under you, I like to call kitchen table talk. It's traumatic. It's traumatic. It I think it really freaked me the hell out. Because it made me think like, am I next? Like if
Mhm.
I say the wrong thing, if I push back, if I show up authentically, which goes into in order to keep my job, I have to do all this emotional labor. So for me, it was very traumatic. It was very traumatic. And I just want that to be known. So hopefully, you know, but I also want to open up the floor if you all have questions you want to bring to the table as well as we sit here and talk about this. Oh, yeah, no. I actually want to ask you a question if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, was I just want to say that it really like I mean, you know, I got love for you, you know that. I just it really I was sad to see you go, but I also was at the same time happy to see you happy. um and but I also want I just what is it that you think we and I'm just saying at SPS, what could we have done better as maybe a group of POCs to support POCs in those situations?
Oh, I don't think that this was on other POCs at SPSCC at all. I
Well,
think
just
it was on other people with power and privilege.
just like how do we like support? Like, what does that support maybe looks like moving forward? Because I feel like sometimes most of us don't know what's going on with a lot of each other, and I'm just really wanting to be a little bit more conscious and aware of where do I come in to support, or advocate for, fight for, and that's really one of the things because I know I never really got to talk to you, but you know, in the scheme of things, but I just when I seen you leave, it really it I mean my heart of course broke because part of me was like, damn, like was it like as a person part of the family, did I not support my family or was it something that needs to shift? Does that make sense? Like I just
It totally makes sense. And I felt adequately supported by every POC that I was close to at SPSCC. Like,
okay.
I don't think I could have asked for more when POC and higher ed already take on more work. We already take on more emotional labor, and we shouldn't take on more.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I would put the pressure on others. Like, Honestly, I'm like, no, people, like, y'all aren't afraid to speak up, but also it's like there are other people with the microphone that could have done the talking. And yeah. So
Well,
I don't think I could have asked for more from y'all.
okay. Well, I just wanted to
We
say,
love you, Lay.
yeah, you know,
Yes.
I love you guys. I miss you
Miss
guys a
you.
lot, honestly.
I know.
Yeah, you're a miss.
I just, it just, I can't speak enough. I think, it's not just me, but multiple people, especially POCs, it was a hard pill to swallow. But I definitely wanted to ask because it's just something that lays on my heart to figure out, how do we continue to still support each other. I do want to ask Joe and Deontay, how are you all feeling in regards to currently feeling supported by POCs on campus? And do you feel like we've come together? Do you feel like we're kind of shifting? What do you think is happening now where we need to do better or change some things on as far as community?
Honestly, I felt supported by all the POCs that I've come into contact with. I'll get text messages out of the blue, just, hey, just checking in on you. How are you? How are things going? What's going on at work? How can I help you to get better at what you're doing or where you want to be? So I've been feeling the support.
Good.
And I appreciate all of it.
Very good. Okay.
Yes, and I would say the same.
Mm-hmm.
I would also would like to have all POCs on campus really come together so that we can feel that support campus wide and feel that love campus wide. I really just only see my fellow faculty and staff of color within Building 22.
Yeah.
And I know there's not too many more, but I know there's some more out there. And so I'm like, faculty of color, where you at? And I want to, I challenge us all, especially at this time. And I think we're doing some good steps on coming together campus wide, with our affinity groups and things like that. And whether you're in a space where you're ready to do the work and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk and make institutional change, I want you in that space with that affinity group. Or if you're just wanting to have a good time with your fellow POCs, I want you in that space. But I want you, wherever you're at, I want you in the faculty and staff of color campus wide space. You know what I mean? I want to see you. I want to get to know you. And so I think we can do I would like to see just all of us coming together more often, whether it be to do some serious work or just having a good time.
Okay. Good.
After this virtual season, of course.
Yes. No, it's good. No, the reason I ask is because we are in virtual space and quarantined and all of the Zoom life, that it can feel a little disconnected. Because we're not able to see each other walking in the hall and down the steps and able to collaborate a lot more like we usually do. So it's just important for me to just be able to check in and to see exactly, what do we need to do to keep that going. But another question that I am going to touch on, and you could be like, I don't know if that's an experience I've actually had or seen. When we talk about emotional labor put on people of color in higher ed, now we all know that people that look like us ain't always for us. I want to make that very clear. And do you feel like you actually have had moments or experience where, you've seen some people of color not really support you in your journey in higher ed?
I have not come across one that hasn't
Mm-hmm.
tried to help support.
Okay.
However, I have bumped into a couple
Mm.
that were by us, but not really for us. So
Yeah.
but as far as the support, there just hasn't been really communication between the two of us. So again, if I don't want to throw everything on that person because I haven't made the effort either.
Mhm.
So I'll leave it at that.
It's understandable. And Joe, Lay, either one.
I mean, no one really comes to mind, honestly.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think I have one. And and it goes back to the conversation of, where you're at in your journey, and if you're, about the work, and if you're, you're aware of certain things or not. I don't judge anyone. And, this individual and I just kind of butt heads on just where myself and the group were going, what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm just kind of puzzled, like, are you really saying this to me right now? Like, I'm trying to listen for understanding, as I always do, try to see their point of view, but sometimes it's just, I don't get it. But that's okay. That's them. That's where they're at. Okay, we're going to agree to disagree, and let's move forward. Yeah.
Well, everybody.
I thought you were about to drop a name.
Okay.
No, I'm not gonna. No.
No, I'm so
not gonna name drop.
I'm like, name Joe.
I was waiting.
I'm like, you gotta drop those receipts. Where they at? Where they at?
I was over here waiting, leaning back in my chair, like, oh,
Honey,
is he
all of
gonna
us.
do it?
All three of them. Make sure I hear this name. But no, it's the reason I asked the question is because when we even think about the work that we have to do to really dismantle institutionalized racism and really be seen and heard, it's also very important for us to really have the conversation around even people that look like us is, ain't really for us, and unfortunately I've experienced that on numerous occasions, undergrad, grad school, and at work, where I've had multiple people of color just, thank God I've grown. Okay. I'll just say that. My lips, be ready to cuss somebody out quickly. But I have grown. Okay.
Look, these masks are perfect.
I know it's the truth.
Because my facial expression just say it all. And with half of my face being covered, it's been perfect.
Yeah. Do you really want to know what you want to see under this mask? I don't think you do. But I do think it's important. I really do appreciate you all for being here. And if there's one, before we do close out, what is one thing that you would demand institutions to please do when we're talking about emotional labor when it comes to people of color? What would be your demand, your one demand?
I would love to say something along the lines of diversity training, but I feel like we have all that and it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And then it's not good enough, is it?
It's not good enough, no. I guess it would have to be more along the lines of practice what you preach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think See, you threw in systematic racism in there. Now my mind's going all over the place.
It's okay.
Again, I think a lot of what we talk about comes down to outside of the institution, how people live in their daily lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a person who's a higher up and you're constantly preaching, oh, we got to make things more diverse, we got to do this, we got to do that, but yet you're not doing it in your everyday life, are you really changing it within a system that you're trying to change? Because you control the system. So I would think it'd be a little bit along the lines of practice what you preach. And that could also trickle over to the institution. Okay, let's start looking to hire faculty and staff that resonate with our students. Let's have real conversations with POCs and see what they're needing to help feel supported, instead of just saying, oh, let's do this and expecting it to work.
Yeah.
Without follow-up. That's the biggest thing. There isn't a lot of follow-up whatsoever.
What comes to mind when you said that, say these things, Deontay, was claiming to be an advocate while still benefiting or supporting systemic racism?
Yep.
Absolutely. For me, I guess I would hope every institution puts in a whites on whites affinity group.
Okay.
When we talk about diverse, equity, and inclusion work, and all the work that institutions are trying to do right now, given everything, seems like we're doing all the teaching, right. And that's emotional labor right there, all the time.
Yeah.
And I need white people to start doing some work too, so that's would be my request.
I love that. I love that idea. Yeah,
Thank you.
We're tired. We're really tired. We should not be doing all this work.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, I don't even try and hide it anymore. And a lot of the questions when I do see coworkers when I go into work is, "Are you okay? You don't look the same," and it's because I'm no longer wearing that fake smile, because I'm just choosing not to.
I think it's good. Go ahead, Lay. Yeah.
If I could start with anything, this is definitely starting from like a workers' rights perspective, but I would start with unionized staff jobs, because it's really hard to bring attention that something is wrong and needs to change when you're not sure how that complaint will be treated when you're an at-will employee, when you're scared to rock the boat. So just starting with job stability, so people aren't wondering, oh man, am I performing enough in this space? Like, how am I being perceived? Like, how did I phrase my feedback here? Like, just having that security that, no, I have my job, I'm good. Because look at faculty of color, and I feel like they are more outspoken, and they are doing emotional labor, and they're definitely overworked as well. But I see a stark difference between faculty and staff in higher ed.
No, it's real talk. It's so funny because it made me think about the things that white folks can say and do and not be any reprimand. And I'll never forget it. I had a white dean come into an office with me and my supervisor, and it was completely out of order. And I'll never forget it. And I'm like, so where is the reprimand or the apology? Did never receive never received apology, nothing. And just not only do we have to teach you, but we still got to deal with your shit. Like that, we can't do that. And as we move forward, I think it's really important for people to know that we don't have to teach you anything. It's a privilege that we are willing to do those things. And I continue to keep saying it. We don't have to, but we do. We don't have to. And for those who don't want to, that's okay too. So I just want to say I really appreciate you all for being here. I always like to end with a quote. And one of my, I was actually watching Super Soul Sunday during my lunch break. I got to get my, Zen in because, I don't want people to think I'm completely crazy. I am Zen and very chill. But I was watching an interview with Oprah with Wes Moore, and he said something that was so important, that especially right now with people of color and how we're navigating everything that's going on in the world, is don't let people who don't matter too much matter too much. And that, for me, is like what I needed to hear as I move forward, within 2020 and on. Don't let people who don't matter too much. Just don't. And I'm like, damn, that's real talk. And I know it's hard. It's a practice, but that's definitely something that I'm willing to go by as I move forward and to live by, to be honest. So, but I really appreciate the three of you for being here and donating your time. I got much love for the three of you. So I appreciate you for coming.
Oh, it's a
Much
pleasure
love to
being
you.
here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course. Well, I just really appreciate you both. And honestly, don't think I won't hit you up to come in on another convo. Because y'all are because I like to keep it juicy. So just have a good one. I'm sending you love. I bow to all three of you. Thank you so much. I love you. And I will talk to you all soon.
Sounds good, Q.
All right. See you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.